What's going on, everybody? I have Antoine from DPR Coldblood from Montreal, Quebec, Canada on the show tonight. Legitimately some of the best animals I've ever seen in the industry come out of his shop up north. We're going to learn all about it tonight. Stick around. It'll be an awesome show for us. What's going on, guys? Thank you all for being here tonight. It is 8 o'clock on the East Coast. It's 7 o'clock here in Minnesota. It's starting to get a little chilly. It's starting to get a little gray and dreary. I never really understood that meme about was it Game of Thrones or whatever, the winter's coming, and now I'm like, I stand outside, it's not really that cold, and I'm like, it smells cold out here. I think it's coming. It's kind of funny. I was able to be optimistic before I'd ever been through a Minnesota winter, and then I made it through, and I was like, "There's nothing to that." And everybody was like, "That was a nonsense winter last year." So, anyway, I'm enjoying the last vestiges of fall and non-frozen weather. I genuinely, I hope that you guys are doing well. I was joking in the Patreon chat earlier. It's been kind of one of those days for me. And I was kind of down on myself earlier and just frustrated with insignificant nonsense. And it was a great little chat and community. They didn't know I was down. They just make fun of me for kicks. But somebody let rip a pretty good joke, and it just put things back in perspective. Like, what am I worried about? What am I? Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is every now and again, just take a step back. It's not that serious. It's nothing that crazy. I hope. Maybe there are things that are genuinely that horrible, but most things aren't. And if you are going through something genuinely horrible, I hope you have good friends around you that you can reach out to. So thanks to the Patreon. You guys were good for that. I got Antoine from DPR Coldblood on the show tonight. I'll tell you a little bit more about him in just a moment. We'll get him on in the not too distant future. He's right in the green room. So, got a few announcements. I will be in Kansas City, Overland Park, Kansas, to be specific. Kansas City gets weird because you got the Missouri side, you got the Kansas side. Anyway, Overland Park. I've never been to any of them, so I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about. I will be there this weekend vending at the Cold Blooded Expos show. I think that's Jason's hometown show, so I'm excited for that. I think it should be a good show. It's the first time I've been. And it's the time of year where I have to book for the coming year. And I'm like, I don't know, should I do this? Because it's 2 nights a hotel. It's 6 hours each way. And then, it's like an extra day out of my facility, extra day that the animals are in displays. So anyway, if you want to see me back there in 2025, make this a good show. You know what I'm saying? Hope to see you there. Jason puts on a good show, and I enjoy it every time. The one in Minneapolis is really kind of the anchor of my show circuit, so I'm excited to do the Kansas City one. This Thursday night, this came together really, really fast today. I'm going to exercise a little discretion in how the conversation went and what I share and what I don't share. But like I say, this went very, very fast today. You've probably seen and heard around, there's been this app called Palm Street. And if you don't know what it is, it started as like a plant sales. It's like a social media platform meets almost like Etsy, except it's for plants. And sometime back, they decided to take a leap into the reptile world. And they had crested geckos and a variety of geckos that have been actually selling really, really well on Palm Street. And some of my gecko friends were like, oh, yeah, I buy on there all the time. And anyhow, I met a guy named Jeff. He's one of the Palm Street guys. I met him. And I don't know I know it was in Denver. It was at the All-American Plant Reptile Expo. But I can't remember if it was the April one or the September one. Maybe it was only September. It's gone fast. Anyway, He was there to learn more about the reptile industry. And because it was a plant show, it was this really nice introduction. And then at Tinley, I got to spend a little bit more time with Jeff, and credit where it's due. Robin had facilitated a little bit. Robin at Redline Shipping had facilitated a little bit of the introductions in the relationship. And Jeff says, hey, if you're going to go this week, you could be the first like full ball python specific approved. A few people have sold ball pythons on there before, but they weren't approved. Not that there's anything wrong with it. If you could get in, go for it, But anyway, he said, but I said, yeah, I'd love to do it. He says, you got to do it this week. I said, I think next Saturday would be better after, a week after the Kansas City show. And it was like, you probably want to do this week, or, I'm not sure what the future holds. I was like, okay, it wasn't that menacing. It wasn't that nefarious, but I was like, you know what? Sometimes when opportunity knocks, you just got to take it. So this Thursday night at 8 p.m. on Palm Street, it's only on the app on your phone. You got to get the app. And I will be auctioning off 10 animals, and there's 60-second auctions. We're going to finish the whole show in 30 minutes. There'll be 60-second auctions, and the very last bid does tack on 10 seconds. So it's not, you can't snipe on it. But anyway, I'll have the animals there. I was asked to keep it at a sort of a boutique level feel. So retail 500 and up on the animals. Doesn't mean that's what they'll go for. It just means those are the caliber of animals that I'm bringing. And, we're going to see what it's all about. $40 flat rate shipping. If you buy a second animal, it's an extra $10 on shipping. And if you spend $750, it is free shipping. I'm covering it, but of course in partnership with Redline Shipping. So anyhow, check it out. I don't know if anything will sell. I don't know if everything will sell. It'll be a good experience and something cool for us all to see as an industry. They've done extremely well in the plant world. Very, very well by all accounts in the gecko world. Let's see what happens with some ball pythons this Thursday night, 8 p.m. Palm Street. That's PALMSTREET. And you could see that you could see the information on my Instagram. You guys know I'm always kicking up something behind the scenes. Me and Chris Eaton, the fat man himself, we have been working behind the scenes, kicking around an idea of how we could just take a step back from the reptiles, from the animals, and we're both into rock and roll. And we said, let's just do a rock and roll show. And we were like, well, where would we put it? Of course, we're going to put it in our reptile Patreon. So if that sounds exciting to you, it's Patreon only content. It's in Chris's Patreon. It's in my Patreon. You can check out those. Proper Royals is the name of my Patreon. The first episode will drop this Saturday. Chris and I checking out music videos that we might not have known about from each other, getting our own reactions, our own insight from our professional experience in the music world. And some unprofessional experience in the music world. So that is on that's coming up on Saturday, Patreon only. We're calling it The Pawn Shop is the name of that. I don't know if it's a podcast, an episode, whatever it is. That's there. And I also do that'll be weekly, but I do a once monthly episode with Shane from Small Town Exotics as well, where we pick apart each other's P&L. We talk about the goings on in the industry, but we really, really dive into the financial, very specifics of our business. So if you want that behind the scenes, that's some value that comes from the Patreon as well. Next week, Ed and Emily Roberts from Snake Discovery will be the guests on Proper Royals Live. How cool, right? Wonderful people. I've gotten a chance to work with them in person at their shows that they host here, and I've gotten to know them a little bit. And I'm really grateful, as I am to all guests, but I'm very grateful that they are coming on the show. They'll be on next week. After that, Miggy's Morphs. Miggy himself will be on the show. And the last worthwhile announcement that I have to run my mouth about is this week I hatched 2 clutches out of one egg, or one clutch was 9 eggs. One clutch was 10 eggs. Out of 19 eggs, I got 5 visual Ultramel clowns. Odds were 1 in 8, and I got better than 25%. So I'm a thankful, happy man. And The second clutch was kind of crazy. I got no normals in that clutch. So all either visual ultramel het clown or all clown 66% het ultramel or visual clowns. And those had pinstripe and blade. And it was pinstripe and blade in them as well. So I'm figuring out what I'm going to keep and not keep, but all of those snakes will be coming to market. Patreon gets them first. And after that, they'll go to properroyals.com, Instagram, Facebook, all those places. Eventually they'll get the morph market if they don't sell anywhere else. So check those out. You can get in touch with me if you'd like to be able to be put on a list. Like I say, Patreon gets first dibs on those. DPR Coldblood. I got to know that brand over the past really kind of year and a half. This brand, Antoine, started popping up in my Instagram, on YouTube, and honestly, the animals were just eye-catching and really well presented, very professionally and enthusiastically. Like the enthusiasm was really contagious, but you could tell it's done from a intellectual, really thought out, and frankly, very experienced standpoint, and almost to the point of like almost being a little intimidating. Like sometimes when you reach out to people to be on the show, you got to get out of your comfort zone sometimes. And that's where you learn stuff. And that's something I've learned. But I talked to Antoine a long time ago, and he was like, yeah, I'll do the show. Man, I just get lost in bookings sometimes. And I see him at Tinley, and I didn't quite connect the face with the brand. And then I did. And then I looked on Instagram to connect with him. And I was like, oh my gosh, this has been sitting here in my inbox this whole time. And I'm saying, yeah, I'll do the show. So anyhow, at Tinley, I made just a real point to try and make sure that I made a little bit of a better connection than in person than I did on Instagram. And I got to meet Antoine and his lovely partner, Emily, at the show. Just wonderful people to hang out with. And of course, Tinley's busy with business, and probably even more so for them than for me. So it was kind of quick, but I'm excited because I've got Antoine on the show tonight. So without further ado, please welcome for the very first time to the Proper Royal stage. Let's see if I can get my French pronunciation here. I'm going to try it. Antoine Séguin. I thought I messed it up. I knew I would. I got it right and he's laughing at me. I got it right in the green room, and I knew I would mess it up. Man, please welcome for the very first time to the Proper Royal stage, Antoine DPR Coldblood. How are you, Antoine?
What's up, guys? How's it going, man?
I'm good. Hit me one more time with the last name.
Séguin.
Séguin. That's right. Okay.
Séguin,
all
exactly.
right.
It's like a type of thing.
Yes, again. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's the French pronunciation. Yes.
I couldn't recreate it in my mind after you probably saw me before we came on. I was like, I
saw you kind of rehearsing it. That was pretty good.
Hey, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here tonight, man.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Likewise, my pleasure. So, and you're from, I was most certain, because I know we were talking about Montreal, but are you in Montreal now? Or are you in a place close?
Montreal. My apartment is in Montreal. My snake facility is also in Montreal, but I came from more countryside, maybe like an hour something away from Montreal itself.
Further, which direction?
You go towards Ottawa, so towards the west.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So close to the main river there, kind of a small village, farmlands. So. Yep.
My mother is from Guelph, Ontario, and her family emigrated to New Brunswick and eventually to Maine in the States. And then when they retired, they moved back to New Brunswick. So anyhow, it's anybody who's never been, and this is not me maybe pandering to the guests, but it's absolute truth. Montreal is my favorite city I've ever been to. It is fantastic. There is the most refined, culturally beautiful experiences, and right around the corner are the divest of dive bars, the most cultural experience. You can go 100%. In the other direction, and you can get it all in the same day, man. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, Montreal, like I've been living in Montreal now for 6-something years. And you can, as far as personally, like I'm a big foodie, you are as well. Mm-hmm. And Montreal, from all the cities I've been to, the closest comparison was Tokyo for me.
Oh yeah.
As
Okay.
far as accessibility of like good quality foods from different ethnicities and that variety within one city that you can go in like 20 minutes, you could have the best bowl of ramen. You can have some crazy Italian food. You can have some high-end French cuisine, some classic Canadian food. Like you can get basically anything within 10 minutes drive, whatever. It's really, really awesome. Full of culture, beautiful city overall. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's a nice place to live.
One of these years, I'll have to not vend Tinley and just build in an extra 2 nights because Chicago is like that. I mean, New York City is probably the best, or San Francisco, but man, Chicago's right there. I mean, Michelin star restaurants and like you say, all the ethnicities you can. I've been in blues bars eating ribs, and 6 hours later at 2 a.m. in Chinatown eating dim sum, and that's after. Right. 2 dinners at the normal time at 4 p.m, man. It's so, I love Chicago, man.
This makes, this is what creates great memories, man. It's really awesome.
Well, yeah. And the conversations and the special times over the food and hopefully nobody gets out of hand, but a little bit of alcohol that balances with the food. It's all just a perfect little equation for me anyway.
100%. I do agree with that.
Well, let's get into some reptiles. How about that? So,
right on, man.
For people that might not know, you don't have to go all the way to the first time that you ever, held a garter snake or whatever when you were 4, but exactly when it started. Okay. A little bit sooner than that. Where does DPR Coldblood come from? And tell us a little bit about the origins of at least the brand or your operations, and then a little bit of where you're at today too.
Well, real quick, when I was 12 or 13, I was breeding bearded dragons. And I wanted to breed snakes, but I was living at my mom's and she was completely afraid of snakes. So it was absolutely impossible to keep any snakes. Bearded dragon was kind of the max. So breeding that. And at some point, she saw too much of the passion. She just kind of folded and gave up. I started keeping ball pythons. And in 2016, that's where I kind of had that feeling, although I was really young, I kind of had that feeling that my market would not be in the French-Canadian part of Canada. It would have to be more Anglophone market. I did not speak any good English back then.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. My English, I learned through like Brian Barczyk videos and doing this.
Oh, so, wow. Huh.
Yeah. So at school, obviously I come from a French background. So at school, everything was in French. I had English classes, but I was really bad and not interested. So that's really all of it came from the reptiles.
I think most Americans probably do. I take for granted that there can be English as a second language in North America. And I know Quebec is very culturally strong that way, and not even necessarily French in their own Quebec way.
100%. It's not from France. It's definitely from Quebec.
That's right. It is definitely Quebec. Yeah. But I do take for granted that I guess I assumed everybody. I don't know. I just assumed wrong. It didn't occur to me that
like my staff doesn't speak. He's from Quebec and he doesn't speak English.
Yeah. Okay.
So he understands a little bit, but he doesn't speak it that much. So.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So very cool.
Jump back to that. And I say jump back to that, and I forgot.
You were talking about learning and starting to breed. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I started keeping ball pythons in 2016, and I knew I wanted to go more like a kind of, English Anglophone type market. So I came up with DPR, which stands for I had a dream to work with my passion for reptiles. So dream, passion, reptiles. That's DPR.
Oh, cool. I actually that's legitimately the first. I was like, I don't know DPR. I'm going to ask.
Exactly.
Ask them on the show.
DPR stands for dream, passion, reptiles.
Okay.
And I kind of came up with that idea on like the first day that I got my first like snakes, and that was really from the first day it happened. Really happy about that. So I started keeping snakes in 2014, 2015, I think. First clutch in 2016, and I've had clutches since then. So yeah, I was 17 on my first clutch. Basically.
Yeah. Where do you go from like, okay, I love these animals, I'm going to breed them some, to, I don't think I'm overstating. I mean, you're internationally recognized, your animals are internationally recognized, and we'll get into it later, but you've at least brought some new combos, if not whole morphs, to the market as well. So where does it go from like, all right, I'm 17 or 16 or whenever it was to 06. Excuse me, not 06, 16 and 17. That wasn't that long ago. It was only like 7-8 years ago, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So like somewhere in this change from passion and dream to an actual business, and there had to be a business plan behind it. Where'd that come from?
When I was in high school, I started this obviously like mid high school. And by the time I finished, I kind of didn't really know where I was kind of going. And I had some counselors saying, like, oh, you have to go in biology. You know, I was speaking about genetics, man. I was on World of Ball Python printing lists and lists. And
Right.
That's really how I learned like my eye to the combo. I was completely obsessed. And everybody was like, dude, you have to go in sciences, biology, whatever. And it's like, yeah, but this I already have. I have to go in business school because I want to make a business out of it. So that's I went the opposite way of everybody.
You did go to a business school.
I did go to business school afterwards, and the whole time I was for those 3 years, my whole mindset was like, if I get any information in class, I kind of had a way to applicate that for ball python business in any way, shape, or form. So right from the get-go, I knew I kind of didn't really have a plan B. I wanted to do this for a living right from the start. And I've been doing it for a living for 4 years now. So it really went all the way from zero to full time of this. I was young, so I didn't have another job. Like a lot of people, they fall into this hobby where they already have lives, they have a house, they have a good job, and then this builds up, and then you have the balance. Or do I want to go full time? Do I abandon my job? I had kind of just that, so I could really focus all my money, my time on this solely. So the whole idea has always been to do this full time. I saw Brian Burchick's video when I was a kid. The guy speaking, and there's rows and rows and rows and racks.
Right? Yeah.
And I was just like, how on earth can someone do this for a living? That's what I want to do. There's no other options. This is it. This is what I want to do. And so every little decisions led up to that today, basically.
So one thought that comes to mind and that really like sparked it with me, almost anything that somebody does in a professional atmosphere. So for me, it was restaurants. So I came up in this, casual dining. It was called Ruby Tuesday. It's like a Chili's or an Outback or whatever, Applebee's. But at the time, they were one of the best, certainly from a stock standpoint and consistency and process driven standpoint. They were some of the best. And I still think back and I'm like, man, all of that stuff was just processes and systems and consistency and making sure that you can repeat excellent outcomes over and over, and then it's not by accident, that it's all purposeful. And when you were saying that about everything you were learning in business school, all you were doing was thinking is, how do I put it to ball pythons? Like looking back, transferring knowledge from one area to another is something that I think anybody can do. And I think if we just look around, we can find it in almost any circumstance. But in your case, where does, like you say, Barczyk had rows and rows, racks and racks. That stuff isn't cheap. How did you build? Did you have seed money that you borrowed? Somebody helped you out, loaned you, or gave you, was very generous? How did you build that? Or was it all on a cash flow model? Did you start very small and build cash flow and reinvest? How did you build that?
The first animals I bought, I remember my big first investment was a banana male in 2017, which I paid like $1,500 for. I was young, so for me, $1,500 was a lot of money.
It's a lot of money now. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that came from selling bearded dragons. So that was kind of from the first little investment. Sold those animals, managed to get that money to get that. And over time, a lot of things that I've done where I got loans from my bank. So I got I think I've got over $50,000 of loan from the bank, all paid now. But that really helped me kickstart my Monsoon project, my paint project, a lot of clown stuff, some tri-stripes, some puzzle, a lot of the big elements that I purchased in the DPR, lifespan were made out of loans from the bank, where obviously you're going to have to pay the interest rate, you're going to pay more. But the thing is, having that animal right now in your collection is truly, truly essential. And that really was kind of a big part of what I've done. And also just every penny that I've made was always going back in DPR consistently for years over years over years. Everything that I was making was going back into it.
How do you, or what do you say to somebody who says, okay, that sounds great, but how do I pay the electric bill, eat, pay rent along the way? How did that figure? And everybody's got a different answer. I got a different answer than you have probably. Everybody's got a different answer. What was that for you?
Honestly, I think that if you start and you want to do this full time from the start, there's just one way around it. You have to have wealth before. Because all the expenses, I always say this, I've said this on YouTube and on different podcasts, but it really takes 6 to 8 years to make some decent money in this industry. The reason why I say this is in the first years, you're going to be producing your first batch of animals with your vision. Then after 3 or 4 years, you breed those females, you make the nice animals, but you still have to hold back most of the animals. After 6, 7, 8 years, you really have a core that's strong enough where you can afford selling the good animals. And these are the ones that makes a lot of money. These are the $10,000, $5,000, $20,000 animals sometimes that really one snake pays your expenses for the next 6 months.
Suddenly there's rats. There's suddenly the loan at the bank is taken care of.
Exactly. But this takes time. Yeah.
Have you ever been, and this has happened to me a couple times, but not like massively, but have you ever been at a point where you're like, I got everything taken care of, but then you look and you have like $6 left, but you feel like the richest man in the world because everything is good, and I got my $6, man. I can live for a while. Maybe it's not fall, 6, but yeah.
Every fall, it's like, because obviously the breeding season happens and you sell most of the animals, and every fall it's like, man, wow, I'll have some money to put down for a house or this. I'll clear the loans. And then you see this crazy snake for sale. And you're like, wow, look at all the money I have in my bank account. And then next thing you know, you receive a damn box with a live harmless reptile on it. And your bank account is exactly there. $6 are like, how the hell did I go from 20, 30,000 to nothing? But this is it. I wouldn't change. Like, I could buy a brand new car tomorrow and not care about it after a week. And I buy a new snake, and 3 years after I open it up and I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah, you wouldn't, you wouldn't be passionate about the car. If you needed the car to get around, or you needed it to deliver snakes, or then it's a tool to reach the means to the end. But no, I thought that was really good what you said about you sold the bearded dragons to buy the snake. I assume somewhere in there, because, well, hell, even bananas still sell like crazy today. I still love working with bananas. But at that time, you could get some pretty good money on bananas. Had you figured out, or had the industry figured out the male maker and the female maker thing yet? Or did you?
Yes, at that point.
But did you know about it, or the industry had only known about it?
I knew about it. It was sold. It was sold as a male maker. Surprisingly, the 2 first banana I made were females, and then all the rest was male. So I kind of got really lucky with that. But unfortunately for me, back then when I invested, I had a vision, but I was a really poor breeder. I didn't know how to breed ball pythons. So by the time I sold my first banana, I sold it for $300.
Okay.
To give you an idea of, I've paid 15. Obviously, banana came like crashing down really fast.
Yeah.
But it took me like 2.5 years to sell the first banana, and I bought a male. So to give you a rough idea, that I was not a good breeder when I started. So all the things that I've learned along the way, how to maximize a project, that was a bad investment, but that was the first investment. So it was the first one. It can't be a bad one.
But those are also like the super valuable lessons that you learn. Like, I don't want anybody to cut themselves in a kitchen, but when you do, you won't do that again. When you burn yourself on a stove, you're not going to do it again. When you bang into somebody and thank God they didn't drop the stock pot, you go, oh man, I won't ever do that again. I learned,
100%.
So I don't wish struggle on anybody, but there is things gained in the struggle, I think, for my 2 cents, and for, I don't know, some of this stuff is just stuff I have to remember sometimes too. So where are you today? Tell us, I love stats. Tell us a little bit about the scope of your operation, square feet, facility, breeder animals, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So right now I have a very small facility. Basically, right now it's just a room. I rent a room at NBK Reptile facility, which is the owner of the Gorilla project. I do the marketing for him. We can go more into that later.
Yeah. Okay.
If you want. But I do rent a small facility in his facility. So basically, long story short, after I did my business school, I needed to go on an intern. And I contacted my buddy Brian from NBK Reptiles. He was local. He's in Montreal. And I told him, hey, man, I've known you for a few years. I have to do an intern and might as well do it with ball pythons. You're like the only large-scale ball python breeder I know around me. And he offered me a job afterwards. And he told me, like, you know what? You live an hour or something away. Why don't I give you a room in my facility where you can bring all your animals, breed there, in exchange for work and vice versa. And I've been there for 7 years now. So,
and you still do the work component for him as well?
Absolutely. Things have changed a little bit. I was doing this full time for him before. Now I do maybe like 10-hour a week. Overall, I manage his employee for the ball python breeding. I still do the breeding plans and whatnot, but it's fun for me. I can do it on two separate collections. And he has very different projects than I do. I don't have any pied, no lavender, and his most like two big focus projects are pied and labs.
I see.
So it's fun for me. I can work on different things at the same time. So there's that. So my room right now is like 200 square feet. And I'm upgrading. So I'm renting a new place it's going to be at the same spot, but I'm just taking more rooms. So it's going to be more around 480 about. And in 2 years, should be new place around 1,500. So
good for you. But say that again, 200 square feet right now?
Yeah.
10 by 20. That's it.
10 by 20. That's it.
Man. And that's pretty good dollar per square foot efficiency you got kicking out there.
100%.
No utilities. You got the deal worked out. It's you're trading some of your time for the ideal situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I talk in my mind, I probably talk to myself more than anybody, but I talk a lot about you could be successful in business driving revenue, but you can also be successful in lowering your overhead. And
so true.
Currency comes in a whole lot of different ways, whether it's advertising, whether it's knowledge, whether it's hard work. Man, I think that's a brilliant story. And I think it's worth like people thinking it over, especially starting out. You talked about different like life stages. You said that you thought it was great to start there early. I kind of did it the other way after I had 26 years of a career and working. And I always said to myself, well, I had the 26 years of saving money and learning along the way versus other people who go, well, you had everything to lose. And I got, no, but I had the life experience. And you're going, well, I had nothing to lose. It was the only thing I was ever going to do. Like you can answer, anybody can answer these any way that they want. But at the end of the day, you just got to go do it.
Around. There's always a way around it. Yeah.
No, that is a really great exercise that people should listen to about. So you drove some cash flow, you found out to lower your overhead, you leveraged smart debt, I would say, versus credit card debt. Those are two different things, different things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very cool. If you, so here's something I'm staring down right now. Now your rent situation is much different than the typical traditional rent, which actually I think is brilliant. There's no other situation you should be aiming for. With your knowledge of the industry and business background, would you advise somebody to rent or to buy, given, I guess, in a vacuum, if there was no other, honestly, exterior forces?
If I could, in my situation, I would have for sure bought either a house, a farmland, or whatnot, to have that as an active for me, something that I would own. Mm-hmm. The problem is having no background in any other job. It's very hard for a bank to loan money to buy a house when your background has been breeding ball pythons and making even money at the end of the year for the past 2 years, because you always, you can have great years, 100,000 in sales, but if you spend 100,000 in investment animals, at the end of the day, the bank sees zero. So that's all it is. So I would have bought, I just can't afford it, based on the background situation.
Right.
But that's going to happen in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I hope.
I would say if you had the opportunity to, would you?
I would.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that bank though. You said without the background, the bank had a tough time loaning you money for real estate.
Yeah.
But they did loan you money. In my mind, real estate's a tangible asset. Worst case scenario for the bank, they repossess it and at least they own the asset. They don't want your ball pythons or your fancy ARS racks or Freedom Breeder or whoever you know.
That's if you tell them that's what you're going to buy. No, I told my bank I was buying furniture for my house. And I move every 4 years and I buy $10,000 of furniture every 4 years. So every year for 4 years, actually. So
they would loan you money for furniture, but not a business. So this wasn't a business loan. This was just personal. Hey, I need some cash for a sofa.
It was personal loans. Like, hey, I just moved out. I broke up with my girlfriend and I need to buy all the appliances and whatever. Okay, no problem. And then the year after, hey, I moved out again. I need to buy this and that. It's like, okay, no problem. So I did that for 5 years in a row. And yeah.
But the first one's the hardest one because after the first one, you have the credit, the bank knows you, the relationship. Hey, you paid this last one on time.
Yeah.
Okay. Stop breaking up with your girlfriend, but otherwise, sure, here's a little bit more money, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I've always on the last, because they were not like all 10,000. There was some like 5,000, some 15,000, some 10s and some other 5s. The 15,000, I had to have my dad co-sign with me on the loan to get it approved. But other than that, it was good. Obviously, if you can have that like co-sign thing, really, really helps. But that really made it work for me.
Yeah, man, congratulations. That's I thought I was pretty good at getting credit. Yours that's pretty good, man. I have to admit I've never tried that. I'm not going to. I'm fortunately in a place I don't need to. Well, I say I don't need to, but no. But to your point though, like right now, I got creative. I happen to be at a point in my life where I own my house outright instead of getting private equity or business loan or investment loan, and to the tune of it was like it was going to be like 13% from a legitimate bank for an investment property, and I was going to have to put 25% down versus borrowing against the home that I already own. And I think it's a 6.5%, which is pretty high right now, actually. But relative to what else I could get it for, it's fantastic. So there's almost always a way. But furniture stories, I like that. That's all right.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's always when I look back at it, I had a $15,000 loan at the same time as my best friend, and he bought a car with it, and I bought some Monsoon animals. And he was like, why do you buy snakes, man? Like, what's the point? Like, you took a loan to buy snakes, and I'm looking at him the opposite way. I'm like,
right,
you took a loan to buy a car, dude. Why? It's 15,000 that you're like putting down the drain. Literally, you could buy a $3,000 car and be just fine, and there would be no problem. Yeah, but I won't have to pay repairs and this and that. It's like, sure, fine. I sold 2 Monsoons this year for $25,000. So it's like, dude, it all comes back up at the end,
Well, but that's just the difference between the entrepreneurial outlook and not, man. Like, absolutely. People laugh at me, but I'm always like, I want to have a way to pay for something before I buy it. So 100%. If I'm going to go buy music equipment, I'll buy the best, but it's because I'm going to go play gigs and pay off that music equipment. Right. Or if I'm going to take this loan, this is a whole different episode. We don't have to get into it right now, but I'm looking at buying a car wash of all things because it's divided into 3 bays. You said exactly 480 square feet. Each bay is exactly 480 square feet. I can convert one of them into ball python room immediately. The other 2 can stay running as a car wash that will pay for itself. And it's like, you just got to figure those things out from a cash flow standpoint versus just going, I got a $200,000 problem to I have positive cash flow each month. And there's my I might only have $6, but I'm going to have the equity in the building and I will have reinvested everything back into the ball pythons, So the stuff they don't teach us in elementary school, man, I wish that they did.
Even in business school, they don't teach you that. In business, seriously, one big thing that I take away from going to business school is that they're not teaching you how to manage your business. They're teaching you how to manage somebody else's business. That's what they do. And literally, I got into fights with some teachers because I disagreed with the way they were teaching. I'm like, I don't exactly remember because it's been like 8-9 years.
Sure.
But like sometimes they were teaching stuff where your mindset has to be the same way as if you start to work for a bank and you just want to work your ladder. And it's like, nah, man, business goes fast and you have to take decisions. And often you have to think outside of the box. And even in business school, they were just training you to be part of a system, not part of your own system and creating your own system. And they were not encouraging that. So even there, I thought that there was flaws in. I don't want to go all out for that, but I still, even in business school, I did manage to find like the right things for me, the things that would make sense and I could apply. But I took some and left some on the table. So you have to keep, not everything is cash, and you have to have a good head when you go and do those things.
I used to tell I would run internship programs with the local universities, and I would tell the interns, you might learn exactly what you want to do. I get chills saying it, or you might learn things that you think I'm an absolute idiot and you swear you will never, ever do. I said, either one is okay. I just want you to learn and have your own conclusions and have the insight and the reality. What you take away from it and how you go with it is your business after that.
100%.
Yeah. I think it's a valuable thing. I got to say thanks. So $20 gets a little pause in the show. Jen did give throwing a $5 earlier. Chris at the Fat Man Nation, check out his Patreon, check out the Fat Man Nation channel. And, if you join his Patreon or mine, you can check out the pawn shop sessions that I told you about at the beginning of the show. So we'll go back there. Antoine, tell us about how do you go? So I'm going to make some assumptions and you can correct me because I've already screwed up a couple assumptions, but not being Canadian, but the perception from a distance is the market it's hard in the United States, but I assume it's very hard in Canada. The population is spread out a good bit farther and there's much less population density. It seems like the avenues for selling ball pythons are probably going to take a little bit more, I don't know, ingenuity, creativity, determination, all those good business words. What'd you do? And I think that the end game is that you went a little bit international, but how does all that happen?
It's interesting to me because, Canada is like 10% of the US population, just to give a rough scale. And, we always try to organize shipments to the States, be open. Like every year I sell probably 60 to 70% of my animals to the States. Mm-hmm. My target market is mostly international. That's where I try to go. But on the contrary, there's guys here. There's a guy local to me. I was with him 2 days ago, and he's doing mostly just sales in Quebec and Ontario. And he's making crazy numbers out of not that much production and not the same level as I'm producing. And he's just the best salesman I know. He's incredible. He has customer support. He's just right there all the time. Like he's so intelligent when it comes to this. And that's why he's making a living out of it just in Canada. He maybe sells 4 snakes a year to the States, nothing in Asia, nothing in Europe, just all here. And he managed to make it work. So
what's his avenue? What's his secret sauce? Was it social media? Is it knocking on? I mean, what's he doing?
You'd go to his Instagram page. You wouldn't see anything. He's just connected. He has the customers that he hatches a snake, or he sees someone that, he did it with me a couple of times actually, where, I produced an animal. He come to my facility. Hey, give me a second. He calls his customers like, hey, I'm at this guy's place. He has this animal for sale. How much do you make it? Okay, 2,000. Okay, I sell it for you to 3,000 and this and that. It's like, for me, it's like, hey, I sold.
He's doing it right. He's doing it right in front of you.
And I don't care. It's my friend. He's making 1,000 out of it. I'm making the price I want. It's perfect.
Everybody's happy.
He's just that type of a hustler. He's making it, and he's really good at it. That's why he's doing a good job. But in Canada, the market is definitely more narrow, where we have less population. There's less big breeders. So the investment animals often are going overseas. or down south. It happens sometimes that, you have a few guys that will buy a very high-end animal in Canada. Most of the time, it's not the case. So you have to go. My mindset was, if I can't really do it here, I'll have to build a connection elsewhere to do it.
Mm-hmm. Do you, I think you talked about batch shipments. Do you go in with other breeders on that? Is that your own mass shipment that's coming to the US? How do you tackle that challenge?
So Brian from NBK Reptiles, which is the guy I rent the facility in, NBK is part of a much larger company, which is one of the main supplier of pet stores in Canada. So they do import-export business for freshwater fish, for imports from Indonesia, reptiles, and this and that. So they have been doing it for 40 years. So they are doing the exports to the US. So they are offering that service, and I was lucky enough to be part of it and help with that. So I do group shipments with their shipments going to the States, and whenever I want to ship anywhere else, we apply for the CITES. It doesn't go under DPR's name; it goes under their business name because they've been doing it for 40 years. So as soon as there's a problem at the airport, it's like, oh, it's that business. Okay, well, let it pass. It's easier. It's much easier for customs, for the air companies and whatnot. So everything goes in group shipments. But definitely, as things are getting bigger, I do have now like some of my own shipments going in Asia and in Europe. So definitely going to work towards that a little bit. But as far as the States, usually it's mostly group shipments.
Yeah. Where it's another great example of making the right relationships, finding the right angles. Can't do it myself, but maybe I can do it with somebody else. Maybe I can bring them value in the form of your labor or your social media expertise or your pure skills, all of that kind of stuff. So, man, I'm enjoying this episode thoroughly, man. This is great.
Man. Me too.
Really quick, I gotta say thanks to Leviathan. You guys, go check him out if you know who Steven is. Steven, thank you, man. I appreciate it. This is good. And sure, people, you want to throw some money in the jar, that's fine. You can, no problem. But I gotta, fund a little trip to Montreal. I can't believe it, man. It has been this summer, it was 24 years since I've been to Montreal. I got to go back, man. But I digress there. Sorry. So we talked about how many clutches, for example, in a year are you producing, or are you aiming to produce, or are you pairing?
The last 2 years were 50 and 48.
Yeah.
I was shooting for 65 this year. Unfortunately, with power outage, floods, and everything that we've been blessed with, I did not manage to hit the 65. I got a good amount of female reabsorbing on me. But this coming season, I should be good for like 75 to 80 clutches. So I have a lot of holdbacks females. It should be good to go. And yeah, those should be like good numbers for me this year.
Was that 48 or 50? Was that sort of the most that you'd ever produced, or was that a dip from prior year?
It was the most, from 20, 30, 40, 50. And then that like kind of plateaued there and stayed to that point.
So those are attainable numbers if people make good choices and good decisions along the way. And you're doing that many clutches in 200 square feet?
Yeah.
Jeez, I got to rethink what my needs, my efficiency model here, man. This is very good. That's nice work on that.
Narrow room is very annoying. Very, very annoying. But it works.
Yeah. Oh, I got you, from an actual workspace kind of thing.
Workspace is very difficult, especially when I bring my dog to work and she's just laying in the middle, and I have the cart, the husk, the cocoa, the garbage. Then it's a bit of a pain in the ass. But at the end of the day, it works. I'm making a decent amount of money with the animals and the space I have, so it just works out. And I know it's just a matter of time until the next step happens, and then the next one after. So I'm always planning for what's ahead. So it's gonna be good eventually.
Right. Before we get to the genes themselves in just a moment, one last question on the really nerdy business end.
Yeah.
You said something earlier about having, I think it was in reference to a Monsoon, but you said having an animal in your hands at that moment. And I think you're referring to the opportunity we usually say opportunity cost when people miss out on something because they wait. So whatever the reverse of opportunity cost is, talk a little bit about what you meant when you said the value and it was worth the loans to have the Monsoon in your hand at that time. Cause that's sort of the opposite of the cash flow model that I like.
Yeah. It's more in a sense that, like, you know, I remember,
and I'm not saying I disagree with it. I think it's very interesting, and I wanted to re-highlight it because there are other ways than what I think, for sure.
I remember Ozzy posting something a few years ago, and it was like the best time to plant a tree was 25 years ago, and the second best time is right now.
Right.
And I've always that quote really, really got to me, and it's like, if I can invest in an animal now, even though I don't necessarily have the right amount of money for it, I need to take a loan for it. But if I have a vision and I know it could fit in my collection, I rather be in a tougher situation now, but have the animal and let that project grow in my collection.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the fruits of that you know, like kind of sacrifice that I'm doing now is going to happen in the future. And the best example of it is definitely the Monsoon. Like, I spent a lot of money back when they were very expensive for hets. I've had a crazy roller coaster on that project. My 2 original animals that I invested in died. I basically worked with only the pos hets that I grew up from those animals. On the first clutch, pos set to pos set, I hit the 2 world first OD Monsoons and 2 yellow belly Monsoons.
Oh, wow.
I sold the 2 yellow belly Monsoons, which paid for everything.
Right.
And, you know, it's just a matter of consistency, you know, 7 years doing it. And I would go back and I'd buy another female, you know.
Yeah.
It's if you have a vision, if you're consistent with it, and you know where you're going with that, there's the animals, they always find a way to make it up back to you.
Yeah. I'm going through a deal right now, or I'm trying to get a deal done. And when you said that about having the Monsoon right now, it made me think of it because I'm absolutely frustrated that this guy that I'm trying to buy this car wash from is haggling over an amount of money, and his place has been on the market 7 months. If he had taken what I'm offering him right now 7 months ago and put it in the S&P 500, he would have already made 30 grand on that money. That's the opportunity cost that him thinking he's being a smart negotiator. Like, sometimes you just take what you need. I need that facility and he needs cash. Get done with it. Let's both sleep well at night and
100%.
move on with our lives, you know?
100%.
And that when you said that about the Monsoon, I was like, that's a better example than me just complaining into the abyss about about what's pissing me off right now. But no, that's a great example. And oh, I know what I was going to. One more business question. How you've got a really, and you guys should check it out if you haven't yet. You got a really great YouTube channel as well. How much does or at all are there multiple revenue streams in your life, or are you just kind of one straight ball python thing? I mean, I know just from the subscription number that you have and the views, I have an idea of at least what you must be making, which is not that much. Yeah. Let's clear the air. It's not that much.
I'm making about I don't care. I'm making about 200, 250 a month.
Yeah, there you go. I was going to say, I would be glad to tell mine in a good month. It's $100 if I make it. Yeah.
It's about that, but it's $250 a month.
That's right.
At the end of the day, you know, the way I see it is after 4 years, obviously all that money is going to be gone. But after 4 years, I'll be like, oh, I made $6 grand. Let me buy a $6,000 camera.
There you go.
That's pretty much the way I see it. So, but
are there other revenue streams, or is it just strictly the ball pythons
for the past 6 years? I've been working for NBK. So the deal is I have a lower salary, but I do get a salary from them. So there was that was paying basically kind of my rent and you know the basic stuff. Yep. But as far as everything else, so like the car, every trips, the like kind of luxury things, my like alcohol collection or this or that or whatever, all of this kind of came from the snakes, and reinvesting in racks, reinvesting in a PC, a editing software, everything came from the snakes. But yeah, so snakes and that small income, but that's been it for 5 years now.
And the salary, like you say, whether it's minimal or not, if it's a roof over your head, that's a significant, that's a big check that you need. You can't, it's hard to do this if you don't have a home. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Antoine, let's take just a second. Speaking of other revenue streams, I got a couple I got to take care of. Let me let me work on that. That worked all right, huh? That was pretty good. Let me take care of that. Audience, when we come back, we'll get into more on the Monsoon and then this Gorilla project as well. In the meantime, really quick, who better than to look after than myself for just a moment? Palm Street this Thursday evening, 8 p.m. I'll do my first auction and the first official ball python auction on Palm Street as well. So if you don't have the app, you can go check it out. And for the record, I'm not paid or compensated by Palm Street at all. I just want to try and make some money selling some snakes. How about that? Just a good old fashioned core need and desire. I hope you'll check it out. Even if you're not interested in buying, I would love for you to check it out and give me feedback. It's a whole new area that I need to figure out or that I'd like to, or I want to explore. And I love that kind of stuff. So come check it out. It should be fun. It'll be 10 animals, 60-second auctions, 60 seconds, boom, boom, boom. We'll get all 10 of them gone or not gone, but we'll complete the auction in 30 minutes on 10 of them. So I hope you'll come check it out this Thursday night, 8 p.m. on Palm Street. Okay, that was one too many there. There we go. In the meantime, REDLINE Shipping is the shipping company that I choose for their experience, their customer service, the ease of their interface, their in-person human customer service. You call them up, you get people that know what they're talking about with the animals that you own, and they will find the answers. They have decades of relationships with FedEx as well. I do believe there's a difference, and I think you'll find it. Use the promo code PROPER5 for $5 off of your next shipping label. Shedtesting.com, that is Charlie Williams. Wonderful disruptor. You talk about an entrepreneur that wants to figure something out, goes after it, finds a way to make it work. Absolutely has disrupted the shed testing industry. Charlie is making his own shed tests. He's working with other geneticists around the world to expand the library of tests that he has to offer. He's the one doing the tests. He delivers the tests. He's the customer service guy, and you can call him up and ask him about anything that you need to know about. And I believe, I don't know if it's rolled out yet, but I know for a fact. I don't know if it's rolled out or not yet, but the shedtesting.com will be integrated with Husbandry Pro for ease of use if you use Husbandry Pro as well. But you don't have to order the test through that. You'll always be able to order a test directly through Charlie. Go to shedtesting.com, use the promo code PROPER15. You're going to get yourself $15 off of 2 orders. And in those orders, you can order as many shed tests as you want. So if you got 30 sheds and you want to get 15% off of that order, which would be significant, you could do that. Just individual tests are 15% off 2 orders on those. RGen Reptiles is Robbie down in Greer, South Carolina. Excellent person to do business with. I was doing business with Robbie before we ever entered into this advertising agreement. I know he's got some lots of DG projects. There is Zebra. I've lost my my morph market memory right now. Singles, doubles, triples, and quad ingredients on projects like Zebra, DG, certainly clown items. Amazing animals and very, very high quality. If you go check out his website now, I know that there's a double visual male on there that is we'll talk about opportunity cost and owning an animal now. Give it a shot. Go check out Robbie at RGen Reptiles. If you go to rgenreptiles.com, you can go on his mailing list, and he gives first dibs to the people on his mailing list. Doesn't cost you anything. Some people want you to join a Patreon for something like that. Anyway, go check out Robbie at rgenreptiles.com or on Morph Market. Portuguese pythons, that's Danny and Renee Rocha. They are out in Chino, California. Also wonderful people to do business with. My entire Ultramel Pied project has come from them. With the dark genes, like blackhead I have a blackhead and a super blackhead in the midst of mine. Also HRA is in the middle of my project in there as well. They just hatched their hatchlings just started. They just reloaded their Morph Market page. I know there's Ultramel clowns on there. There are lots of Ultramels on there. And again, the dark gene combos that they're working into those projects. Also single doubles and triples. I don't know if they have any quad ingredients just yet, but I know that they put the codoms into their ingredients very early on. That's Danny and Renee Rocha of Portuguese Pythons. Go check them out. Ball Labs, Trevor in Aurora, Colorado. Trevor is working like all the stuff that nobody else wants to, along with all the stuff that everybody does want to. But Trevor likes maybe bringing back some genes that people had forgotten about or hadn't had a chance to mix in with some of the newer genes. So if you want to see some things that maybe not that many people are working with, check out Trevor at Ball Labs. He is also working genes like Puzzle, Ultramel, Monsoon, Tri-Stripe, DG, all the usual suspects, Sunset as well. So he's got those as well, and he's doing things the right way. He's one of the very few licensed rodent breeders in Colorado. He is inspected. His facility and enclosures are inspected for rodent safety, and he is one of the very few rodent breeders in Colorado with a license. He's doing it the right way, and those are the kinds of people I like doing business with. Last but not least is Chris at B and S Reptilia, and Chris is my business partner at Tinley. We have a little side business thing cooking up ourselves. We'll share that as the time comes, but maybe this week the item is arriving tomorrow. I'm pretty stoked about it. We'll do some session together on unboxing that item. But anyway, in the meantime, Reptilia is because Chris specializes in a variety of species. So he's got ball pythons, of course, blood pythons, locality boas, colubrids, pituophis, the pine snakes, and bull snakes. If you're interested in any of that or need knowledge, help, insight, mentorship, check out Chris at B and S Reptilia. He's also the regional distributor in Pennsylvania of the Chipper Cocoa. Thank you to all the sponsors. I appreciate you all. You do keep the lights on, and you are one of the streams of revenue that helps out here at Proper Royals. Audience, thank you. You guys are the ones that keep it going. Otherwise, it's just me yelling into a camera, and that's not as fun. So thank you all for being here tonight. We got Antoine from DPR Coldblood. That is Dream Passion Reptiles. I learned that tonight. So Antoine, thanks for being here. Thanks for sitting through the promos, man. I appreciate it.
No worries, man. No worries. It's good, man. When I do the YouTube videos, I've been doing it for 4 years, and every single one at the end, subscribe to YouTube channel, go to Morph Markets. Every time I mess it up, it's like, guys, you know what to do. Just don't make me say it again. Just do your thing, and that's it. So I respect you doing it. It's really good.
Oh, thank you. Well, sometimes I wonder if I should just like shut up and just let their logos be. Like they're already there. Maybe I'm not sweetening the pot. I don't know. I did forget. All their links are down below in the description. You can go learn about them all you want right there. But no, aside from any advertising, just conversationally, I'm really happy to say, like, they're people that I would want to do business with. They're people that I've gotten to meet and to hang out with and share time with. And that I will admit, when I first started, I was like, I just need a sponsor. I just need somebody to write a check. And I realized pretty quick, I was like, I don't want to just like, I don't know who these people are, so like, I actually spend a lot of time with each of the sponsors. And so I really want to feel good about who I'm saying. And I'm really proud. I think it's coming up on a year that any of those logos have changed anywhere. And that's not because I make year-long deals. Almost all these deals are month to month and no contract. I mean, they're just handshake agreements. And so I'm really happy and thankful for that. So thanks for the opportunity to talk a little bit about that. But so tell us about, I think we're all a little bit familiar with Monsoon, and I do think it's worth circling back there because I think that it's farther reaching and people are pretty interested in like maybe what some future visions are. Yeah. Gorilla is something that I've heard about. I know a little bit about it. I watched a little bit. I was doing some show prep and I was like, is it the same as HRA? Well, I got that. Let me find out. So I watched your video on, suddenly 20 minutes are gone. I'm like, I got work to do, I won't give the spoiler unless you want to give the spoiler. You can go watch the video, but tell us about the story of Gorilla. I think you said, and are the letters N as in Nicholas or as in any whatever N
Yeah,
NBK?
the NBK stands for Nuran, Brian, and Kevin.
Okay.
Which basically Nuran is the father, Brian is the son, and Kevin is the other son. So
Okay.
it kind of had like that, breeding. The father Nuran had that. Wow, man, he was breeding albino Burmese and albino boas in the early 2000s. Like he drove up to Peter Cal to buy very, very expensive albino boas way back. So like that is definitely a business that has been there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
In the early 2000s, they were doing imports from Africa of ball pythons to just supply the pet market, because as I was saying, they have a wholesale company that supplies pet store all across Canada. And
Sure.
in the early 2000s, well, there were not as many ball python breeders as there is today. So there were still a lot of import stuff, and they were selectively picking out animals out of those imports that they really liked. The cantaloupe is one of those genes. Gorilla is definitely one of them as well. And when I started working for him in 2017, I kind of saw like 35 Dinker projects, and I was like, no way, man. This is not happening. I am not managing all this crap. Like, let's figure out which are the best ones. And we narrowed it down to like 5 or 6. And over the years, it really got to like 4 of them. And Gorilla was kind of the one on the back burner, where we didn't produce that many clutches. We're not too sure where it would go. We had some pairings, but the results were not exactly what we expected, because we kind of saw the gene as chocolate or another, kind of black pastel cinnamon type of it. It's very dark. Right. So we did a pairing in 2021, I think, to a pastel Enchi ivory, simple female, but I wanted to see the interaction with pastel. And we made like some crazy pastels that had like nice yellows and really jet blacks. But if the mindset is you're going to make something that looks like a kind of muted color with like a dark gene and pastel on top, it's not exactly what we had. We had like a pastel with jet blacks and a bit more dark. So it's like, man, that's not exactly what we hoped. We wholesale those animals, and in 2023, it was like, you know what? Let's throw some of our darkest stuff. So GHI, blackhead, and let's try to see if we can hit something dark. And if not, we'll wholesale the whole project and we'll move on to something else. Mm-hmm. And yes, we did hit something. The GHI gorillas were really phenomenal. The blackhead gorilla was really awesome. And the year after that, basically this year, 2024, we realized that we did have some het red exanthic kind of mixed in our projects from some previous pairings that we did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's also kind of why some people were like, hey, this kind of looks like het red exanthic, while they were het red exanthic gorillas. So this year we paired a super gorilla het red exanthic male to, I think, 6 or 7 females. So we really were able to see, here's a gorilla het red. We know the difference now. We really know where we work from there. And it's basically gorilla on its own is, I kind of, the more clutches I do with them this year, I kind of see it as like what Lace is doing, but increasing the black instead of the
right. Yeah. On its own, it takes a partnership to make that one really stand out. Is that right?
Exactly. So if you just look at like a Lace on its own, like, I mean, you have some nice Lace out there, definitely good examples, but the real power happens where you see a 3-4 incomplete dominant animal without lace and one with lace, and you're like, oh, wow. All right. It creates that much intensity of, saturating the colors, cleaning the animal, and Gorilla's doing the same kind of thing, but with the blacks. It's really highlighting those blacks, making them more rich, more vibrant, and more really like intense on the dorsal and on the whole body of the animal. So that's kind of where we're going with it. And from the things we're understanding with it now.
The more experience I get, the more I appreciate what you're saying about the right combos. I mean, I think it's a basic understanding, but as you get more and more nuanced with it, and it's weird because genes that have passed through my collection that I didn't really think much of, I keep going back to it, but het red exanthic, it was okay. I just got a blackhead het red exanthic, did it from Portuguese pythons, het ultramel. stunning, just absolutely jet black. The patterns are beautiful with the contrast and the sort of the white and the silver look almost. Anyway, so yeah, I really value what you're saying now about that being a combo on there. How many? I always go back to these logistics and analytics.
I love it. I love it. Hit me up with them. I'm all up for it.
What is the scope of the NBK operation? And I ask that because it sounds like, and I may be making this up in my mind, it sounds like you get to have almost a little bit of a, not a playground, but you have, if you're selling to pet stores and you have misses or hets buried in there, okay, no problem. Whereas the average person trying to prove out a gene or work with things, you might not have 8 or 9 blackhead females or blackhead combo females, where if you don't, if you pop out some normals or a single gene, whatever, that you just like, okay. And it's not that it monetarily the animal's worth less, but it's not worth less as an animal. It's still going to go to a pet and be a pet and all of that kind of thing. So that sounds like a really nice, like, scientist playground from a breeder standpoint.
Yeah, the operation ball python wise is not so big. I would say it's probably the same size as my collection, where they have more adult females, so they are producing like 70-80 clutches a year about.
Oh, really?
It's not that much of a big operation. It's just that they produce a lot of different things. They're leopard geckos. They're the North American leader in scaleless corn snakes. They a lot of kings, a lot of corns, some boas, big rodent production. And then with, the wholesale part of the company, they have 40,000 gallons of aquariums for fish and whatnot. So
sure.
They have a lot of different things, but as far as ball pythons, it's not a hyper-focused collection, nor is it a large-scale production. It's just
that's
just
much
enough to supply pet stores, but nothing to go crazy and be, Canada is 10% of the US. So if you want to supply the pet stores in Canada, you need 10% of the Wilbanks collection,
Yeah, no, well, and that's what I had in mind. I was like, man, is this like, I don't know. I've been to some facilities that have, 400 or 500 clutches a year, and my whole facility is the size of their walk-in incubator kind of thing, where you're like,
yeah, pretty much.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But that's where, like, if you were trying to prove out or experiment with genes, it would just be a drop in the bucket. Whereas, like, say I was like, well, let me experiment with this. I'm going to use 5 females. That's 10% of what I'm going to produce in a year. I can't do that. I can't play willy-nilly with that.
Yeah. And see, their NBK's ball python breeding, as far as the collection, I would say probably 40% is dinker projects, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
It is all. I mean, at this point now, we have a lot of other genes, mixed up in there. So we have like some really good females that are cypress, yellow belly, dinker, het, lavender albino. So we have decent animals on their own, but they're all mixed with the dinker projects here and there. So it's definitely. I mean, that was Brian. Interest in the ball python. He's not that much a ball python guy. He's more a colubrid. Passionate. So for him, the ball python was more like, hey man, if I can work something and create something different, might as well do it.
Yeah. So I was about to say, like, what's the value proposition? Like, okay, I'm going to make these for pet stores that don't really care. And then if we do something cool, well, that's a jackpot on top. Is that?
That is exactly what happened for the last couple of years. It was mostly just wholesale animals. And then Gorilla just took off, and it's like, oh wow, we just made 4 times what we make in wholesale
right
1 week. Cool,
man. Well, look, there's just a million different ways to do things, so I'm trying to stay focused on the genes here. So have you gotten Gorilla into any recessives or taking it farther than sort of beginning combos?
We have some hats. No visual recessive yet. This year we should, if we're lucky, see Gorilla Clowns this coming year. And we have it in het with Pied, Desert Ghost, Hypo, and Pied, Desert Ghost, and Hypo. That's it. Obviously with Clown. that we have. But as far as that, yeah, Pied, Desert Ghost, Hypo, and Clown. Yep, that's it.
But no visuals yet.
No visuals yet. No.
Man, okay. So what makes you decide like which recessive you want to put it into? Obviously, if you were going for just like big splash, why not try a Gorilla Monsoon?
Thing is,
oh my God, I can't believe. Do you know who Gorilla? I can't believe this. Do you know who that person is? Or there's a character named Gorilla Monsoon.
Seriously, no, I have no idea.
He's a famous wrestler. He was always on WWE when I was growing up. Like the guy that called all of like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man's matches.
Really? His name was Gorilla Monsoon.
His name was Gorilla Monsoon. And
dude,
to this day, there is this is getting really nerdy. Before the wrestlers walk out, there's like a little production area, and the producers sit right there, and that's called gorilla position, because Gorilla Monsoon, after he was announcer, he was a producer, and he was like totally beloved in the industry, and they named that location after him. That's gorilla position. But Gorilla Monsoon, I can't believe it.
That's so good, man. That is hilarious. I didn't know that. That's for sure. Like it's funny because I'm not a person who really likes naming ball pythons like crazy names with like 3, 4, 5 genes. And nor is Brian, but he hates it so much more than me that I want to name every single recessive. So every single one of them are going to have a name, and I'm the one doing his marketing, so he has no say in it. People will come up to it. I already know that the Gorilla Hypo, Gorilla Ghost is going to be Harambe. This is set in stone. This is
okay. Sure. All right.
The Super Gorilla is called the Silverback.
Okay.
And Gorilla Clown's probably going to be King Kong or something like that. And we're going to move on from different.
Well, I mean, Gorilla Monsoon comes named. It's already named. I mean, it fits 2 ways. It's the genes in. I cannot believe that. I never thought of that before somehow. But
pretty funny. But to answer your question, why was there no recessive into it? It's a very simple answer. It's because I, as DPR, have 0 gorilla in my collection, and all of the crazy recessive are in my collection. He has more a collection to supply pet stores. So he doesn't have Puzzle, he doesn't have Paint, he doesn't have Monsoon, he doesn't have Sunset. He just bought a Sunset and a Zebra, but as male, try to upgrade the collection a little bit for the Dinker projects. Yeah. But as far as the animals he has, he just doesn't have them. So when I do the pairings for him, I try not to mix our collection too much. I will a little bit in the future, seeing like this coming year, seeing how much traction the Gorilla project has taken. I will do definitely a little bit of it in my stuff. But as far as this year, mixing it with a recessive, the main reason why it's not with crazy stuff is really because he doesn't have them.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I did not stop to think like where one collection ends and where the other begins. So there's generally a dividing line there.
Sorry, say that again.
Sorry, there's generally a dividing line between the two.
Yeah. There's definitely, I mean, at the end of the day, right, it's different collections for biosecurity, although it's at the same place. We kind of do things the same way, but we still want to have 2 collections. If ever anything happened to one, it doesn't mean it screws up the other one.
Right.
And they're animals that come from different backgrounds. Like a lot of his animals have been there for a long time, and a lot of my animals have come from different breeders. So I've built a collection. So we kind of both respectfully don't want to mix match your collection entirely. And then as far as business partners, we're business partners in many different things, but when it comes to we have 50 breeding loans, it kind of get a little bit
that's a little too much.
Like Gorilla's great value, Monsoon's great value, I have a lot of demand for Paint. How do we split that? If I put some Gorilla stuff to my Monsoon or my Paint, demand is there, but it's like, how do you split? He doesn't have Paint, so he would have to sell. But then if I want to keep,
trust me, I get people. I have a really tough time with partnerships and with things because of that. They get sticky, and it is very difficult. It's very challenging, and that's beyond just interpersonal relationships. I mean, and you can have, like you say, you can have 2 really, really good people at the table, and you go, well, okay, so we each own half of this animal, but then what about that animal? If I own the male and somebody owns half of the female, then what do we do? And it, anyhow, we could do a whole show on that, but I understand that. I understand what you're saying there. Yeah. So where do you see, I guess I was going to ask, where do you see Gorilla going? But if it's not yours yet, it's probably not as passionate of an answer. Why don't we switch over to Monsoon? Where do you see Monsoon going? Where do you want to take it? Where's the next stop on Monsoon for you? Where's the roadmap for you?
Monsoon has always been kind of a gene where I knew it was my favorite from the moment I've seen it. From the moment I've seen Monsoon first time, it was like, holy cow, we finally have the granite Burmese in ball python. I'm hooked. I want to have that in everything.
Yeah.
But on a business standpoint, Monsoon is so powerful. It's like you want to do everything bamboo. It's not a good idea. Monsoon is phenomenal. It's still one of my favorite gene of all, but it's very powerful. It's going to be a crazy project, but I'm going to work it kind of separately. To answer your question, every time I speak with people about the Monsoon project, people that are involved in the Monsoon, they're like, oh, we're doing DG Exantic Monsoon, DG Monsoon Clown, Monsoon Sunset, Monsoon Puzzle, Monsoon this, recessive. And all I hear is, okay, and then what?
Yeah.
So for me, my interest is making bright orange Monsoon, like literally my chair.
Yeah.
This color Monsoon.
Okay.
Like, I want to make Monsoons that are neon orange. So I'm going towards super OD, yellow belly, fire, enchi, lace Monsoon, like some animals that will have so many great highlighting genetics, incomplete dominant, that will make the most visually insane Monsoon. And as everybody's working towards double and triple recessive and whatnot, I'll be working my way into incomplete dominant and making the most out of one recessive and incomplete dominant. And then if I want to buy DG Monsoon, well,
you could buy one, right?
Exactly. But if you want to buy a super OD yellow belly fire Monsoon, there's probably not going to be that many around. So that's kind of the mindset I have for Monsoon and for a lot of different projects at the same time.
That was a very similar conversation that I was alluding to with Portuguese pythons when I talked to them. I talk to Danny fairly often, and I said something about, triples or quads, and he's like, yeah, but what are you going to do when you get there? Somebody else is already going to be ahead of you. May as well make your own codoms, and then you could buy this. You could buy the one without the codoms in 5 years when you're interested in it, and it's way cheaper. And I'm like, it's pretty good. That's why I hang out with these people, man. This is
100%. And it's funny because even though we'd say tonight, there's, I don't know how many people listening to the video now, or people that are going to listen to it, or people that had that conversation already. Vast majority of people are still going to go for double, triple, quadruple recessive, and their pairings are still going to be that. Like I have two OD Monsoon females. I have an OD Monsoon and OD yellow belly Monsoon. And let me tell you that none of these girls are going to go to any other recessive projects. They're just going to go for crazy super OD stuff. I would rather breed a male packed with incomplete dominant that I want to work into it with no recessive than a hypo DG clown puzzle pied to a female like that, personally.
Fair enough. What do you think the market says? That must mean, I'm trying to play this out in my mind, because on the one hand, there's and I know that you're speaking in hyperbole. We're probably not going to do 6 hets. I get it, but say triple or quad hets. And we'll have, it'll be, in 5 years, we'll be like, yeah, this is sextet here, or however you would say it. But where I was going is I think we get caught up, and we have to, because it is a business, especially when you're talking $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 animals. There's really no other way at that point to look at it unless you have generational, and I'm talking massive generational wealth. Otherwise, you're probably just making bad decisions if you're not looking at it from a business standpoint. Yeah. But so from a business standpoint, does that translate to the market? Is that something you have to, how do you see it? Is this something you have to market along the way? Do you have to say it out loud 50,000 times over the next 10 years? It'll just speak for itself. What do you think?
I don't think so, because I think that the people who are going to go for the multi-recessive, once you hit it, you're going to go and look for the animal with the most genetic to buy and incorporate to those projects.
That's true. Yeah. Then you're going to look for the 4 codon male that you love, that you want to get into it.
My mindset from the start, when I started breeding ball pythons and making connection, and I had not made anything relevant, was always, I'm going to focus on the animals, create amazing stuff. And if I make some stuff that's amazing enough, they're going to sell themselves. So my goal is just to make, crazy looking monsoons, crazy looking puzzles, crazy looking whatever I'm working with, enough that people are just going to go like, okay, now I get what you want to do. Like, I need this project. I need to go in there just by seeing the animal. And for example, the OD monsoon, I've had some investors in Europe that told me I bought $50,000, $60,000 a monsoon just because I've seen this animal. Brock Wagner was telling me at Tinley that he sold 4 monsoon the day I released the video. It's like sometimes you just have to produce the right animals to ignite the interest of people. And I feel like by doing multi-recessive, in my personal opinion, is not my interest. I'm working some. I have some in my collection, but my main goal is 1 recessive with incomplete dominant, and then work your way a little bit here and there.
Yeah. I can't argue with you. The case you just made is fantastic. And the proof, yeah, I bet Brock did. Brock better bought you a nice steak at Tinley after that video honestly, came out, right?
I think next year he will have to.
There you go. Yeah, put that on the list. I promised you a 90-minute episode tonight. We got a few minutes for some quick fire stuff and a few people that have been hanging out all night. Balls and Goins asked a long time earlier in the show, thanks for the patience, about the paint project, and you brought it up. Talk about that a little bit. Where do you see that going? What's your vision on the paint project? Where do you want that to go for yourself?
Everything kind of lagged a little bit, but I think I've heard my vision on the paint projects. Your vision. You got it. Okay,
yep.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to go with what I just said before. I'm going to just stack some incomplete dominant into it. I think paint is a really fun and interesting project to work with, mostly because obviously not much has been made. It's super reactive. I made the first cypress paints this year. They were way, 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 way better than I anticipated. And I really think that, adding Stranger, Super Chocolate, Cypress Spot Nose, all these incomplete dominants are going to be super cool. But then when you start dabbling into, what does a Cypress paint clown or paint puzzle look like? All these are going to be interesting. So I think that paint is definitely kind of the sleeper recessive as far as pattern. There's, Hypo, DG, Ultramel, whatnot. And as far as the pattern ones, the main one is clown. Puzzle is definitely there now. Like, we don't have to advertise that puzzle is great. People are already understanding it. But I really think that paint is kind of the third one that's really going to be pushing its way into the like more mainstream scene of ball python breeding.
Very nice. The ones I saw off the top of my head were from Steve Casino, Steve's Morphs in Tinley. And those were the first paints I'd seen in person. Those were primo as well. Let's see. Soda Balls, and I'm not sure if that's Perry or Karen. I know they asked earlier about you mentioned cantaloupe in passing. What's the story on cantaloupe? What's going on there?
Cantaloupe's kind of the same thing as gorilla. It was an import animal. This actually came from an Enchi female that they imported and kind of isolated that gene. I have a few YouTube videos on my channel, really dissecting where it came from, the interaction of it. But basically, cantaloupe is a enhancing gene that will create really nice contrast. But the real magic happens on the lower part of the side of the animal, where you really have a clean lower part, very, very bright, and all the flames on cantaloupe animal are accentuated. So you kind of have a little bit of that yellow belly effect without that pixelization. When you pair cantaloupe with yellow belly, you have huge flames, humongous flames. It's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, so that project is really going, we're dedicating a lot of zebra time for that project. So we bought a zebra male, we're doing zebra cantaloupe, and that's going to be for the next 5-6 years. We're going to work into super zebra, super cantaloupe, OD pastel and she's zebra type of stuff. So going there, we'll bring that back in to a table in Tinley in a few years.
So we might see the cantaloupe in the orange monsoon project, huh?
Absolutely. That's definitely something that would be interesting. Yep.
Okay. And then last one, hypo on Gorilla. What do you expect to see? You see a nice purple like GHIs? What do you see?
I think it's going to be really good. Hypo with any dark gene is phenomenal. Hypo, black pastel, cinnamon, chocolate, blackhead, het red, they all look phenomenal. So I don't see why it would not. I really want to see blackhead Gorilla hypo as just how dark the blackhead Gorilla was. I think that hypo version would be like neon, like, gray, purplish. It would be really cool.
Feel like a rave in the early 2000s, man. Just neon light shining on your
Yeah, pretty much.
Antoine, I don't know how we could have packed more content into 90 minutes, man. A great show tonight. I really appreciate you being here. We got to do this again. I feel like we can hang out. There was no usually I save this conversation for the green room, but there was no struggle, no dead air, no where do we go from here, man. I really, really appreciate you doing this. It was a great show tonight.
Likewise, man. I really enjoyed my time, and it's always fun to have genuine snake conversation. Like you said, that flows well. It's always fun. I'm up for a round 2 whenever, man.
Thank you so much. I will take you up on that. We'll make the audience wait just a little bit for it, but I will take you up on that. I promise. Stick around in the green room for just a second, Antoine. Audience, thank you all for being here. Thanks for your participation as well. Next week, I got Ed and Emily Roberts from Snake Discovery on the show, man. The hits just keep coming, and we got a tall one to stack it up against tonight. So, Antoine, thank you very, very much. YouTube, Instagram, Morph Market. Where else should people find you?
That's YouTube, Instagram, Morph Market. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it.
I
struggle even to say it now.
All right, guys, go check out Antoine. Give him some support and some love, thumbs ups, and subscribers. Don't cost anything. So thanks very much. See you guys same place, same time next week. Cheers, everybody. Bye.